friends, welcome back to my channel. You can call me Kai and this is my crafty corner of the internet where I talk about all of the cross stitch things that I get up to. And this month we're back with a regular cross stitch update video. So I've got two different projects to show you, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you see like my total stitch counts, I was actually very productive this month. So I've got one whip and one new start that also became a finish. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. So my goals for January were to basically stitch on June blooms and start a birth announcement for my second baby. And I managed to accomplish both of those things. So the first project that I'm going to show you is June blooms, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs with artwork by Margaret Morales. I'm stitching this 1/1 full cross on 25 count pre-gridded Lugana. This is where I was at last time you guys saw it. And then after stitching on it for 25 days in January, here's where I'm at now. I've finished page 3. I'm so excited. I honestly did not expect to get that much done on it, but I suppose when this is pretty much the only thing I stitch on in a day, I can actually log quite a few stitches into it. So after 25 days of stitching, I finished page 3. I did 5,814 stitches this month, bringing me up to 24,046 total stitches for 11.56% complete. And I am finished page 3. Again, in case you forgot, my goal is to finish the top row of pages before my baby comes in June. And the fact that I did 5,000 stitches on this month means it's probably it's very likely to happen now. So basically I only have 2 more pages left to finish out this row. And what, about 4 or 5 months to finish it in is probably very doable if I continue to focus on it. Let me bring this in just a little closer. So I think the next 2 pages are pretty much mostly flowers, a lot of blues and purples, but I think I'm gonna get a little batch of pink over here. So that's gonna be fun to stitch a bunch of colors I haven't stitched yet. So my goal in January was to try to do 127 stitches on June blooms every day, just doing that at least. But I was finding that it actually felt like my progress was much slower, and then after a while having like a daily target kind of started feeling like a chore and like it was homework. So I'm probably not going to be doing that. My goal for February will be to add 3,164 total stitches. That's a very specific number. And I got that figured out by dividing the total amount of stitches left in the top row by the number of days until like the middle of June. So I get like an average stitch count per day just as like a general target of like, if I want to reach this goal by this deadline, this is what I should be aiming for. So I took that number and multiplied it by 28 days in February, so that's how I got my 3,164 total stitches. Now that's just going to be like a baseline goal to hit for the month. I'm not going to force myself to stitch on it every day or to stitch that many stitches or to do 113 stitches every day. Just because, again, that started feeling like a chore. But having a target to aim at is a lot more helps me be a little more mindfully productive than just going, oh, whatever I get done this month will be fine. Especially since, I'm working towards a deadline. So just wanted to explain like my goals process on that. Last year when I was stitching on it, it was just whatever I managed to get done for the month was fine. But since I have a very specific goal I want to accomplish by a very specific time frame, I need to break that down into manageable steps so I'm not like scrambling at the last minute to get everything done, basically. So then the next project that I have to show you is a new start that I managed to also finish in January. This is a birth announcement for my second baby on the way. The base pattern is Happy Bees, A Little Honey is on the Way by Serenita di Campagna. I then modified that a little bit to add a border around it to turn it into more of like an announcement style pattern to also match the announcement that I stitched for my first child. So after stitching on it for 21 total days in January, I did manage to get it all finished up, and so here is the finished piece. So again, the base pattern was the bear, like pretty much all of this bottom half, including the beehive and the bumblebees. I added in the leaf and ribbon border. Up here is where the birth details will be stitched, so things like the baby's name, how much they weighed, how long they were, the time they were born, etc., stuff like that. And then I haven't properly measured it yet, but it should work out to be about an 8 by 10. So yeah, once the baby comes, I'll be able to backstitch all of this information here, and then we'll get it off to the framers so it can be hung up in the nursery. So I really loved stitching on this pattern. The bear was just absolutely adorable, and I loved the colors. The color palette was just so pleasing. I did edit the flowers here. They were originally charted in like a blue or a pink, but I opted to make them white because I wanted to stitch this before the baby was born, and we currently don't know what we're having yet. This did give me a little bit of an issue. I realized so I had finished all the crosses and I had started on the back stitching. I was about halfway done with the back stitch when I realized that like the yellows in here don't look quite right. I'll pop up some pictures of what I'm talking about. Like, oh, well, why are the yellows in the bear like not looking right? Like everything else is shaded where like the darkest color is like the outline, and then the next darkest color is like the shading inside, like you usually see on a lot of cross stitch patterns. But for some reason on my piece, even though I was following the correct color codes, like I had my floss drops labeled with the color code and I was using the right numbers, but mine was inverted a little bit and I was really confused. And then I realized I dropped my floss wrong. When I was in the process of putting the new floss that I had bought for this pattern on my drops, I accidentally switched up 3820 with 3822, and I had them on the wrong drops. So I had to, let's see, how much did I end up frogging? I frogged about 467 stitches to fix this mistake because it looked weird. It wasn't sitting right with me. I did take out all of those yellows because, and I wanted to, I needed to. This is going to be an heirloom piece. It's going to be something that I'm going to have professionally framed and hanging up in my house. I'm going to be staring at it every night while I'm feeding the baby, and I would not be proud of myself if I left that big of a mistake in. It's one thing to like have a tiny mistake, like, oh, I missed a stitch there, and then like realize that after you had it framed. Like I did that with my first child. There's one flower where the colors are like I have an extra color, like an extra stitch somewhere it shouldn't be, but that's fine. It's small. Like you probably would find it if you were staring at it really closely, but it doesn't affect the overall piece. But this was a huge mistake, and I caught it while I was still working on the piece. So it just didn't seem right to me to leave it. So I frogged out 467 stitches. It took me, I think, 2 work sessions to frog all of those stitches, and then another 2 work sessions to restitch with the correct colors. And like I said, I found this out halfway through the back stitch, which means I was almost done with the piece. But so it added, fixing that mistake added probably about another 3 days onto my work time. But in the end, it was worth it because, I mean, look at this. This is cool. This is so adorable. And I'm so much happier with it. It looks so much better with the colors in the right spots. And I can absolutely say that I am proud of this and will be proud to have it professionally framed. And that's it for my projects. I do have one other whip from last year that I am still considering an active whip, and that is Overlook Cafe. I kind of intentionally chose not to stitch it in January because, like, for one thing, the birth announcement was my priority stitch for the month, and then I wanted to make sure I got some decent progress on June blooms as well. And then the other reason was because I wanted to see, like, kind of get a rough estimate for like how many stitches I'm averaging each month, and I can't do that with Overlook Cafe because it's a paper pattern, and even though I have tried many different times to get it scanned into a PDF to at least be able to like track stitch counts on it, I have not been successful with that front. So I didn't want to stitch Overlook Cafe and then kind of like throw off my data for the month. So with that being said, I do have data. I've got my wonderful husband bought me a cross-stitch tracking spreadsheet, and it tracks so many things for you. It logs, I will link this in my description box just because I think it's really handy. It logs your total stitches for the entire year, how many stitches you have to do to fully complete like everything that you're working on. And so yeah, it tells you how many stitches you do per day, how many stitches you're averaging in a day and in a month for the year. So my stats for the month. In January, I did 10,847 stitches in the entire month of January. My best stitchy day was 565 stitches on January 16th, and those were all sunk into the Bumblebee birth announcement. 5,817 stitches on June blooms, and counting the frogging episode that I had to do, I also ended up with 5,030 stitches sunk into the Bumblebee announcement. There's not that many stitches in the pattern itself, but again, I frogged and then restitched them, so I counted them as stitches being done. So that's some really fun data. I'm probably not going to keep up with data like that for the rest of the year, but I figured since I was mostly working on 2 Pattern Keeper compatible charts, I wanted to stick to that data, even though Pattern Keeper does not count backstitch. You can't even do anything with backstitch and Pattern Keeper. So I probably did a little bit more than that if we include backstitching as stitches. So yeah, it was, like I said, a very productive month. I did not think I did almost 11,000 stitches in a month, but clearly I can. So Yep, so moving forward into February. Yeah, like I said earlier, I think my main goal is for June Blooms is to do a little over 3,000 stitches in February to keep myself on track for the top row complete by June. If I get more than that stitched on the project this month, that would be even better, but I'm trying not to assign myself too much chores in my hobby. And then with the birth announcement finished, I'm going to pick up Overlook Cafe again and try to get as much done on that as I can. I'd like to start, I've got 2 stockings that I need to stitch this year. A Santa's Truck stocking kit by Dimensions for my spouse, and then the Reindeer and Hedgehog kit also by Dimensions for baby number 2. Ideally, I would like to get that Reindeer and Hedgehog stocking finished before the baby comes. That way, all I have to do after they're born is stitch the name in and fully finish it. I'm going to try to do a little more work on Overlook Cafe in February. And other than that, I think the only other like cross stitch adjacent goal is I'm gonna finally get myself or sew myself a grime guard for June Bloom, so I'm not dealing with clothespins holding my extra fabric. Otherwise, I think that's about all I have for you guys today. I may or may not start one of those stockings in February. Like I said, I'm really gonna try to keep my focus on June Blooms and maybe try to make as much progress on Overlook Cafe as I can. I will definitely be starting the Reindeer and Hedgehog stocking in March, regardless of what else is going on. And then, so yeah, I guess we'll just end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please take the time to be kind to yourself and do something for you. And I will see you guys next time. Bye friends, happy stitching!